week one of the fantasy football season, and here's a few tight ends I look to start here. So week one here already, and it's ready to go and set your lineup. So the first guy, Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys here lack of weapons this season. That's why I didn't like Dak Prescott this season for fantasy drafts here. A lot of young guys on this team, and you pretty much just got CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz until Michael Gallup comes back. So Dalton Schultz last season was a breakout year here for him, and he got the franchise tag as well from the Cowboys. So right now, week one, if they want to keep pace with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football, someone's going to have to catch the ball, and Dalton Schultz, he's the nice second option over there in this Dallas Cowboy offense. So Schultz here versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think he could have 60, 70 yards and possibly find the end zone in this one. He's been a matchup nightmare last season, had 78 catches, and they're going to have to throw the ball to someone in this one versus Tampa Bay. And I think Schultz is going to get peppered with targets. So on volume alone, I think he has a good ball game. And he was a tight end taken 7th, 8th round in most fantasy drafts this season here, Schultz. And I think he has a good one in week one. The second guy, TJ Hawkinson of the Detroit Lions. So Hawkinson, he fell in a few fantasy drafts on the lower end. Last season was a total bust year for Hawkinson. But now I think things evened out here in terms of fantasy football, where he went in fantasy drafts. And he's still a big target. He's still a guy that could find the end zone. And week one, this Philadelphia Eagle defense isn't the greatest of defenses here. The only problem is Jared Goff obviously don't stretch the field. He was great where Matthew Stafford was TJ Hawkinson. But last year, we saw St. Brown be the number one option in that offense here for Detroit. And I think Hawkinson in this one in week one has a pretty good ball game where I think he could get 7 to 10 fantasy points in PPR leagues. And like I said, tight ends a crapshoot for the most part. But Philly, they're a team that's not the greatest on defense. I think TJ Hawkinson surprises this week. And he's a tight end I would start and possibly could find the end zone. The next guy, Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals. So Ertz banged up day to day right now with a calf injury. And he's another guy that's talented still, I believe, here. And he fell down in draft boards, going 9th, 10th round in most leagues here. So Zach Ertz, when he went to Arizona in the second half of the season after the trade deadline, he finished up with good numbers, 74 catches, 763 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. And now with DeAndre Hopkins suspended the first few weeks of the season here, someone's got to step up and get that targets a little that you're missing from Hopkins and Christian Kirk, who obviously left in free agency and went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know they got Hollywood Brown, AJ Green still over there. Radalde Moore, I think could step up a little bit this season. But Zach Ertz is an option in the middle of the field and a security blanket here for Kyler Murray. I think could have a good ball game, and he's got a good matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs, who obviously their defense has holes in it. We've seen it over the last few seasons, but their offense overcoming the defensive deficiencies. And I think Zach Ertz, as long as he plays in this ball game, I think he's good for 70 yards and possibly finding the end zone. So as a tight end option in PPR leagues where I think he gets anywhere from 10 to 13 points, he's definitely a tight end I would start this week. The next guy is Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Muth, he broke out second half of the season last year for Pittsburgh, and now he's the number one over there. He don't have to worry about Eric Ebron or anyone like that. And right now, Pittsburgh, they're going to start Mitchell Trubisky, it looks like week one. And Trubisky, if he wants to be good in this league here, he's going to have to use the tight end as a security blanket, even in situations if he wants to stretch the field. So we know Mitchell Trubisky, he's a guy that likes to throw that ball up and take the shots, the gunslinger in Trubisky. But if he's more consistent and just finds the middle of the field and hits the open guy, Pat Freiermuth could have a great season with Trubisky as the quarterback. And in week one here, it's a classic division matchup, Cincinnati and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know it's going to be low scoring, though. You know it's going to be a dogfight. And this is where tight ends come into play in those type of games, where it's run heavy and short passes. So Pat Freiermuth, I think in this ball game, 6 or 7 catches are possible. I don't think the yardage is going to be high for him, but as a tight end option this week, I think he has a decent ball game. And the Steelers, they want to prove here that they still could compete and put up big ball games. And we know Cincinnati obviously made the Super Bowl last season, and they're going to be a team that's not going to go anywhere for seasons to come with a great offense built around Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So Pat Freiermuth in this one, it's going to be a dogfight, and I think he could get anywhere from 8 to 12 fantasy points in this week. And as a tight end option, you would take that. And the fifth and final tight end I look to start this week's Mike Casicky of the Miami Dolphins. So Casicky, a lot of people sleeping on him coming into the season. I know reports came down that he's going to be obviously losing some target share with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, the top two options in that offense, and also Chase Edmonds being a good pass catcher out of the backfield that they signed as well. But Casicky's still a guy that could work the middle of the field. He's still a good security blanket, obviously, for Tua. And last season, Tua counted on him. Over 70 catches last year was Mike Gesicki. And I think in week one here versus the Patriots, the Patriots, they always try to take out that number one option is Bill Belichick on the Dolphins offense. And they're going to take out Tyreek Hill, double team him, whatever the case may be. And they're going to have other guys try to beat him. So this is where Mike Gesicki comes into play, in my opinion, where they're going to have him one-on-one coverage or zone coverage. And he's going to be open in the middle of the field, where this Patriot defense is going to focus on stopping Tyreek Hill and taking him out of the game plan. So I think Gesicki's a sneaky play this week here. And to be honest, I'd be confident to start him this week. So that's a few tight ends I look to start here, week one of the fantasy football season.